it's getting really exciting. Of course, Ivan's plan is, oh, how can I live up to the promise I made to Stella and free Ruby to a zoo? And of course, Ivan brought all that attention to the mall with his beautiful billboard, with all those pictures put together. I'm wondering how he painted them, knowing how they'd fit together. Maybe he laid them out in his room at night when he was painting. But anyway, reading 25, which starts on 232, starts out with the title, Protesters. What do you think that's about? More people with signs come today. They want Ruby to be free. Some of them even want Mac to shut down the mall. So some of the signs say, free Ruby, animals need love. Ivan and Ruby, elephants are people too. We love animals. Ruby! And that's what the signs of the protesters say. So in other words, what turned out to be a good news story is all of a sudden not so good. In the evening, at least as far as the mall is concerned and Mac is concerned, in the evening, George and Mac talk about them. Mac says they're protesting the wrong guy. He says they're going to ruin everything. He says, thanks for nothing, George. Mac stomps off. George, holding his mop, watches him leave. He rubs his eyes. He looks worried. Dad, Julia says, looking up from her homework, you know what my favorite sign was? George asks, which one? The one that says, elephants are people too. George gives her a tired smile. He goes back to work. His mop moves across the empty food court like a giant brush, painting a picture that no one will ever see. The next chapter is called Check Marks. A tall man with a clipboard and a pencil comes to visit. He says they're here to inspect the property. He doesn't say much more, but he makes many check marks on his paper. He looks at my floor, check. He examines Ruby's hay, check. He eyes our water bowls, check. Mac watches him, scowling. Bob is outside, hiding near the dumpster. He does not want to be a check mark. The next chapter is called Free Ruby. Each day there are more protesters and cameras with bright lights, and sometimes the people carry signs and they shout, Free Ruby, Free Ruby. Ivan, Ruby asks, why are these people yelling my name? Are they mad at me? They're mad, I say, but not at you. See, it was all that caustic, wasn't it? If that caustic hadn't been laying there, this wouldn't have happened. A week later, the inspecting man came back with a friend, a woman with smart, dark eyes like my mother's. She has a white coat on and she smells like lobelia blossoms. Her hair is thick and brown, the color of a rotten branch teeming with luscious ants. She watches me for a long time, and then she watches Ruby. She talks to the man. They both talk to Mac. And the man gives Mac a sheet of paper. Mac covers his face. He goes to his office and slams the door. Wow. What do you think? Something strange is happening, and the next chapter is called New Box. Something strange is happening. The white-coated woman is back with other humans, and they place a large box in the center of the ring. It's Ruby-sized. And suddenly I know why the woman is here. She's here to take Ruby away. The next chapter is called Training. The woman leads Ruby to a box. She places an apple inside. Good girl, Ruby, she says kindly. Don't be afraid. Ruby inspects the box with her trunk. The woman makes a clicking sound with a little piece of metal she's holding in her hand. She gives Ruby a piece of carrot. Each time Ruby touches the box, she gets a click and a treat. Why is she making that clicking noise? I ask Bob. They do that to dogs all the time, Bob says. I can tell he doesn't approve. It's called clicker training. They want Ruby to associate the noise with the treat. And when she does something they want, they make that noise. Great job, Ruby, the woman says. You're a quick study. After many clicks and carrots, she takes Ruby back to her cage. Why is that lady giving me carrots when I touch the box? Ruby asked me. I think she wants you to go inside, I explained. But there's nothing inside, Ruby says, except for an apple. Inside that box, I say, is the way out. Ruby tilts her head. I don't get it. See the picture of the red giraffe on the box? I think the lady is from the zoo, Ruby. I think she is getting ready to take you there. I wait for Ruby to trumpet with joy, but instead she stares at the box in silence. I'm not sure you understand. The box might be taking you to a place where there are other elephants, I say, a place where there's more room and humans who take care of you. But even as I say these words, I remember with a shudder the last box I was in. I don't want a zoo, Ruby says. I want you. Oh, I want you and Bob and Julia. This is my home. No, Ruby, I say, this is your prison. Ooh, the next chapter is called Poking and Prodding. A lady comes again. She brings an animal doctor with an awful smell and a dangerous-looking bag. He spends an hour with Ruby poking and prodding. He looks at her face, her feet, her trunk. And when he's done with Ruby, he enters my cage. I wish I could hide under knot tag like Bob. Instead, I do a nice loud chest beat, and after a moment, the doctor retreats. We're going to need to put this one under, he says. I'm not quite sure what under means, but I strut around my cage, feeling victorious anyway. The next chapter is called No Painting. No one asks me to paint today. No one asks Ruby to perform. There are no shows, no visitors, unless you count the protesters. Mac stays in his office all day. Ooh, you have a lot to write about. The summary, but your questions like, whoa, what is happening at the mall? It's getting exciting. So write your thoughts and we will talk about them very soon. Can't wait to read what you write.